pleased to welcome to this podcast for the first time my friend Anshel Pfeffer, who has covered Israeli politics and Israeli national security issues and global affairs for over 2 decades. He's a senior correspondent and a columnist for Haaretz, and he is the Israel correspondent for The Economist magazine. He lives in Jerusalem. I first met Anshel in 2018 when he was working on his book, his biography of Benjamin Netanyahu. He and I were on a panel together at an event in the U.S. with Anshel, me, and Amir Tibon. Anshel, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
You are fresh back from Gaza. It is your second trip to Gaza in the last couple of weeks. You were there over the last 48 hours. Can you just start by, we've had a number of guests on this podcast since October 7th who are intimately involved with covering the war or intimately involved with the war, Israelis, but no one we've had on has had your experience. I want to talk about that. You've been into Gaza. Just, I guess, maybe describe each visit to Gaza. What about each one? What was the biggest impression you had from each one? How are they different? Just your general impressions.
So I went in both times from the same route. The Israeli forces obviously have gone in to the Gaza Strip from a number of routes. Both times I went in from the northwest corner of the Gaza Strip, quite close to the sea, at a place called Israel. Those who have been to Israel and got a good knowledge of Israeli beaches, is a place near Zikim, which is one of my favorite beaches, and I hope to be back there and not as a reporter once all the unexploded ordnance is removed from there, because it was the site of some major attacks on October 7. That's the route in which the main unit, or the main big unit operating there, is the 162nd Division, which is one of the IDF's 2 regular mechanized armored divisions. And both times, but I think the second time even more. I was there, I think it was day 8 of the ground offensive the first time I was there. So that's by now nearly 2 weeks ago, and I was there on this week on Tuesday night. Both times what struck me going in is the level of forces that the IDF has employed in Gaza. There's, without going into numbers, it really is a massive deployment of armored force. And that was really the thing that struck me in the first time, is that the way a lot of certainly the initial part of the ground offensive was being conducted from both tanks and we don't call them APCs anymore, and the people who are into military lingo know that we call them now IFVs, infantry fighting vehicles, because they're much bigger than those old Vietnam era M113s. They're basically tanks just without the turret and the cannon, and you've got space inside which would normally be in a tank. So instead of all the space in the tank for storing the cannon shells, you have a whole infantry compartment, and these are quite advanced vehicles. They also have a lot of screens inside, both for just driving the vehicle and for the gunners, and thermal cameras to try and locate ambushes, and it's also all interconnected, so the commander of the vehicle can also get on his screen a map showing where all the other vehicles and other forces are, and have intel surveillance feed onto his screen from drones and from whatever other sensors the IDF is in this in its very impressive digital array. And you get the feeling when you're in one of these vehicles in an armored convoy going in, that there's a war going on which is kind of being carried out on screens, and then at some point you arrive. This, I'm talking about the visit to now almost 2 weeks ago, the embed I had then. You arrive at an advanced command post. In this case, it was of the 401st Armored Brigade, and you dismount from the vehicle, and suddenly you're on a battlefield and there's the dust and the explosions and the soldiers around you taking cover, and you go from seconds in being in this very high-tech environment, which, to be quite honest, 20-year-old soldiers around you were much more at home in, because these are kids who grew up in the era of smartphone screens.
Right.
And then you're back on what could be a battlefield in any major war in history.
Right. Yeah, it could have been the Lebanon War. It could have been the Yom Kippur War.
Could have been Second World
Right.
War. The level of noise and firepower and just any kind, almost any type of kinetic weapon being used was almost overpowering. And even though I knew the numbers and had an idea more or less of the type of force that the IDF was employing, it only really comes home to you when you're actually there and you see the tanks and the armored vehicles and what they're firing and the incoming. This was still a relatively early stage of the ground campaign, and Hamas was still putting up quite a fight, and we saw incoming mortar shells, trying to find where. I mean, this was a very small command post, and it was sort of hidden where we were, and there were buildings around where the soldiers we were with thought that there may be snipers or some kind of missile ambush coming from. That's something you immediately feel and understand when you're there. So that really what struck me the second time was just that level of both, on the one hand, very high-tech, advanced, interconnected kind of fighting force, but still having to employ the old school tactics once you're out of your vehicle and on the ground. In the second time I went in on Tuesday night, I went in with another force which belongs to the 162nd Division, but they didn't go in with. They were not one of the advanced units. I went in with a battalion of the Nafal Brigade, which is an infantry brigade. They went in initially about 2 or 3 days after the beginning of the ground offensive. They've been in that now for 2.5 weeks, so it doesn't. The times are pretty similar, but they went in on foot, classic infantry. Ration, but obviously after the tanks and the heavy fighting vehicles had already broken through, and it was first of all, I'm myself, many years ago, I was in IDF infantry, so for me it was kind of a bit of a throwback to the past. But what really struck me on this visit, and we went into the battalion command post. This was the 931st Infantry Battalion in Al-Shati, which is one of the largest neighborhoods or refugee camps, as it's called, but it doesn't look like a refugee camp. It's been there for 70 odd years, and it's just a very dense residential neighborhood. What struck me there was just the level of destruction. And once again, this is something I knew about from having been in briefings and having been to headquarters within Israel and seeing on the screens what the IDF was doing. But once again, this is something that you only fully grasp when you're on the ground and you see around you the amount of buildings which have either been destroyed or severely damaged. And you talk to the soldiers and the officers on the battlefield who are carrying out these search and destroy missions, going from house to house. Most of these houses have either been pinpointed by IDF intelligence or surveillance, or they themselves have seen something which causes them to be suspicious that their house may have a tunnel shaft or some kind of Hamas stronghold or weapons store. They go from house to house. And this is an area which, until 6 weeks ago, 90,000 people lived in. It's, I think, the second largest neighborhood of Gaza City, and now it's totally empty of its residents. They've all fled south, so there's very little. The limits of using firepower are mainly at this point limits which are there to prevent friendly fire, to prevent harm to the forces, because there are no civilians there. there is no real concern of collateral damage at this point. And if there's when they have a house that they're suspicious has something in it, they don't immediately go in. There's either a tank firing a couple of shells at it or an airstrike. Then they'll go in, and usually they'll go in with combat engineering troops whose job it is to detect any booby traps, any type of explosives left there. They'll search the building. When they find what looks like a tunnel shaft or weapons left behind or any kind of signs of Hamas presence, the building will either be blown up or they'll bring in some kind of heavy equipment, usually a D9, to basically to level it. And this is one battalion of dozens which is currently in the process of doing that in various sectors of Gaza City. And, they talk about the objective of this campaign, and the main objective that the Israeli government has set is to destroy Hamas's military capabilities. And when you see what that means, you realize just to what a level in the 16 and a half years of Hamas's rule in Gaza, they have built those military capabilities to the length and breadth and depth of the civilian fabric of Gaza City. So it's...
And can I, when you see all that, are you thinking, wow, it's impressive that Hamas built all this infrastructure? They basically built like a military base, effectively, in North Gaza or Northwest Gaza. They basically built a military base disguised as a civilian community. Are you impressed by it, or do you say to yourself, this could only have happened with the Israeli leadership kind of letting it happen, meaning sort of turning a blind eye, or not knowing about it, like let it happen by accident? Well, but are you just sort of struck that they were able to do it? Is it that impressive?
Just to be accurate, it's not. They didn't build a military base disguised as a city. There was a city there, and they took over that city, and they threaded their tunnels and bases and headquarters at every level through the city. I mean, Hamas is built on the military structure of Hamas is built on a regional scale. Every neighborhood is a battalion. Every town or city is a brigade. There are significant differences between them and an organized military, but in many ways they're an organized military with Gaza as its base. And look, this is not something that Israel did. If we zoom out, Israeli intelligence knew about this. I've been hearing about this over the years in briefings. It's something that Israel fought against in other rounds of warfare. So once again, you never fully grasp it until you're on the ground seeing it. But it was there. It was known. There was no... Hamas doesn't put out the figures and names of its military personnel, though. I think Israeli intelligence had a pretty good idea of the scale of it. But to go out, to zoom out and ask the question of why did the Israeli leadership not act against it all those years? That's the kind of question that Israelis have been asking since October 7, and there aren't any easy answers for that. And I mean, I assume at one point we'll have to make this about one man. And Netanyahu, when he returned to power, he had his first term of office in the late 1990s. When he returned to power in 2009, there was a situation already there. Israel had left the entire Gaza Strip in 2005 in disengagement, carried out by another Likud government in which Netanyahu was a senior minister, voting for disengagement over and over again until just, I think, 8 or 9 days before the disengagement actually began, resigning. 2 years.
He resigned. He resigned because he did not want to. Because he wanted to be. He didn't want to be part. Party to the Sharon
resignation.
He wanted. He wanted to break with Sharon on it.
I mean, by now it's almost distant history.
But no. I know.
Well, I mean, the timing and the circumstances of Netanyahu's resignation are interesting, but probably for another discussion. But anyway, he came back.
So
He came back to the Prime Minister's office 4 years later. In the meantime, in 2007, the Palestinian Authority, which had taken over all of Gaza after this engagement, before this engagement, and after the Oslo Accords in 1993, that they'd controlled all the towns and cities of Gaza. After this engagement in 2005, that they were already in control of the entire territory. 2 years later, Hamas takes over in a bloody coup. Netanyahu comes to power a year and a half after that, in early 2009, shortly after Israel's fought its first ground campaign of a series at the end of 2008, early 2009, Operation Cast Lead. And Netanyahu was saying in that election campaign into late 2008 to early 2009 that the government, at the time it was the government of the now defunct Kadima party, he will be very different to what they're doing. He will go in all the way. He will destroy Hamas. He won't allow Hamas to remain in Gaza. And Cast Lead ended in a sort of stalemate. Israel went in, not as deep as it's gone in now, but it went into the outlying neighborhoods of Gaza, fought what was a short war against Gaza, against Hamas on the ground. Hamas took a lot of hits, but it wasn't nearly enough to destroy their capabilities. And Netanyahu comes to power promising to destroy Hamas in Gaza. He doesn't do that. Since then, with one short break of 18 months, which ended a year ago, he's been in power. And Netanyahu's strategy, which he's set out, not exactly in the open, but in enough meetings and events which have been leaked out, and we know, we have verbatim comments of his. He's said this is the best strategy: keep Hamas in Gaza, because as long as Hamas are in Gaza, the Palestinian leadership is divided. The Western world sees Hamas as a terror organization, doesn't really expect Israel to have to negotiate with them, and they can't really expect us to negotiate with the Palestinian Authority, which still controls the West Bank, because how can we make a deal with an organization which doesn't control Palestinian area?
Yeah, and the belief that the assumption that at least some part of Hamas was serious about governing Gaza, that they were dealing with leaders in Gaza. They were not dealing with, but meaning that they assumed that there was some practical mindset to leadership in Gaza that viewed their job also as kind of running Gaza, not a death.
That Hamas had a vested interest in holding on to this base. Hamas, for the first time in 2007, suddenly were in charge of territory. Hamas until then was only an opposition movement within the wider Palestinian movement. For the first time, they had power over territory. That meant for the first time they had to run all the civilian apparatus as well. And since they see themselves also as a political organization, as the rival of Fatah, which controls the Palestinian Authority, it was thought that Hamas would have a vested interest in some kind of stability in Gaza, so they could prove that they can run a city, they can run a territory, and ultimately they can run the Palestinian people. And Netanyahu banked on that as a way of dividing the Palestinian leadership and keeping both sides weak and not being under too much pressure mainly from the United States to negotiate with the Palestinians and to embark on any kind of diplomatic process, which he has never wanted to have. Netanyahu's bigger strategy, and this is Netanyahu going back, and you know the man, you've spoken with him many times.
Yeah.
This is going back basically to Netanyahu at the very beginning, not just Netanyahu's political career, not even his diplomatic career in the 80s in the US, but stuff he's been saying from the days he was a student activist in the 70s in MIT, doing lectures for the consulate in Boston, in Jewish communities, and after that, in various local channels, local television stations. Netanyahu has always said the Palestinian issue is not the main issue. Israel is facing a much bigger threat from the main powers in the region. At the time when he started speaking about this, he was still saying they're backed by the Soviet Union. After the Soviet Union ceased to exist in the early 90s, then they were being backed by Saddam's Iraq, they were being backed by Iran, which is not untrue. But the flip side was the thing I always said, look, the Palestinians are not a real important issue. They're basically being used by that bigger Arab or Muslim threat on Israel as a wedge issue to try and chip away at Israel and force Israel to make concessions and put Israel in a situation where Israel will be weak and vulnerable, and then they can finally realize their ambition to destroy Israel. So Netanyahu's always, I mean, I've been also in conversations where he's called the Palestinian issue a rabbit hole. Don't go down that rabbit hole. That's not the real important thing. Let's talk about Iraq. And part of that strategy of keeping the Palestinian issue off the agenda has also been to try and keep this divide between Fatah and Hamas, between the West Bank and Gaza, between these semi-autonomous or autonomous enclaves, keep them divided, and in that way ensure that Israel wouldn't come under too much pressure to make any serious concession or embark on any kind of real diplomatic process with Palestinian leadership. So Hamas served that purpose, and over the years, you said Netanyahu didn't deal directly with Hamas leaders. That's not entirely true. There was perhaps not direct. Usually there was some kind of go-between. But in 2011, once again, Netanyahu was the one who green-lighted the prisoner exchange in exchange for Gilad Shalit.
Gilad Shalit,
who had been held for 5 years by Hamas in Gaza. He agreed to release over 1,000 Palestinian prisoners. The main figure amongst that group was Yahya Sinwar, who is now Hamas's chief in Gaza. Yahya Sinwar already then in prison was running a lot of Hamas affairs. He basically was the point man from Hamas for the deal. He was doing this while in prison. And Netanyahu has been engaging with Yahya Sinwar for years, including, we know, at least one case in which Sinwar sent him a note. There's a picture of the handwritten note. It's written in Arabic and in Hebrew. Sinwar learned Hebrew in prison. He sees himself as someone who knows the Israeli mindset. And
no, he's like an obsessive consumer of Israeli media, right? I mean, he learned Hebrew in prison. He would read Israeli press all the time. He follows Israeli press. He's considers himself an expert.
And, I've spoken to intelligence officers in the Israeli prison service who, with that.
And just to be clear, just for our listeners to understand, Yahya Sinwar is the man. I mean, he was the architect. So it's been reported, of the October 7th massacre. So he was in prison for 2 decades. He gets released from Israeli prison, 2011, as Anshel is saying, in the Gilad Shalit prisoner exchange, and he comes back to Gaza, and we're dealing with him today. I just want our listeners to have the
sure. So, and Sinwar is a very interesting figure in the sense that in Hamas, the leadership is divided between military wing and the political wing, and Sinwar is probably the only figure in Hamas history. It's not very long history. Hamas was founded in 1987, so it's not yet 40 years old. But in that period in which Hamas has been through quite a few leaders, some have been assassinated by Israel, some have been forced into exile, he is probably the first leader who has actually taken control of both wings. Certainly within Gaza, and that's Hamas's main power base, he is someone who is both the political and the military leader. Officially, the chief of Hamas's military wing is Mohammed Deif, who's seen as another of the masterminds of what happened on October 7th. But in reality, Sinwar is the one giving the orders both on the political and the military side in Gaza. And there's a lot of stories going around about Sinwar. I try not to mythologize any of the people that I write about, but I've spoken to intelligence officers in the Israel Prison Service who sat with him for many, many hours over the long time he was incarcerated. And they've all come away impressed by his intelligence, and he wanted to speak to them in Hebrew and to kind of have this kind of dialogue. And for years, there was a feeling and let's not just blame Netanyahu for this, there was a feeling within the Israeli intelligence community, Israeli politics, military, and so on, that Sinwar is somebody who has made a strategic choice to go for that civilian approach in Gaza. Nobody thought he'd become a Zionist or anything like that. But that Sinwar had made the strategic choice to prefer building Gaza and building his own political power base rather than launching a war that, as he did on October 7th, that would basically condemn him to death and bring about the destruction of Gaza. And I think even now there are people who are still asking themselves: did Sinwar really think Israel would react in this way? Did Sinwar really want October 7 to be as devastating and barbaric for Israel as it was? Did he think that they would succeed so much when they breached the border fence at so many points and so many Hamas fighters, and then followed by other organizations and just looters and crime gangs from in Gaza coming through the fence on that day, and actually for 2 or 3 more days until they were finally all beaten back? Did Sinwar expect this, or is this basically a huge strategic mistake on Sinwar's side? And a lot of people I've been speaking to in the last few days who are exposed to some of the intel coming in from eavesdropping on Hamas networks, which are still operating to some extent in Gaza, are saying that there is a feeling of disbelief amongst Hamas commanders that they never expected Israel to go all the way in.
The scenes you're describing sound to me like scenes from World War II after D-Day in Cherbourg, which is quite different from the footage which we've been seeing over here that's being released by the IDF when we watch, CNN or Fox or BBC or whatever we're watching. You're describing scenes that look like World War II. What's the disconnect?
Gaza as a city is now uninhabitable. Entire neighborhoods are destroyed, and in the process of going after all the Hamas strong points and tunnels, more and more buildings will be destroyed or damaged. And I can't say at this point when the IDF will pull out most of the ground forces. As long as they're in, this is a process which is going to continue. The IDF is doing what the government said to destroy Hamas's military capabilities. The IDF made it very clear on I think it was day 6 or 7 of this war, October 13. They put out the warning to the citizens of Gaza City: go south of Wadi Gaza. We're going to operate. It's going to be dangerous for you. Don't remain there. That message took some time to filter through. In some cases, it seems that Hamas was also preventing people from leaving, but now almost everyone's left. We're talking about a city, the greater urban area of Gaza City with 1 million plus people. It's now almost entirely empty. And the reason that what you're seeing, whether it's from Israeli media and IDF spokesperson cameras, or from the media which is in Gaza, which is mainly controlled by Hamas, or whether they're Hamas sympathizers or they're simply being limited by Hamas, but what they can do, it doesn't matter. The fact is that whatever you're seeing now from inside Gaza is either coming through the lenses of Israeli media and the IDF, or through news crews who are being controlled to a large degree by Hamas. And neither side at this point have an interest in showing that the level of destruction to Gaza City, because as far as Israel is concerned, Israel's first of all showing stuff to its own citizens. The main role of the Israeli media, I know that everyone sitting as you are in America think everything is just for you, but most of the message and the visual messages and
that's a very American mindset.
Yeah, you are American. Bless you. That's what you are like. And it's not being tailored for you. It's being tailored, first of all, whatever's being filmed and broadcast on the Israeli side is first and foremost for the Israeli public, and the Israeli public is now a mobilized society, and everybody has a brother or a son or a sister or a dad who's been called up, and the Israelis want to see their soldiers. They want to see what they're doing on the ground. They don't want to see the big picture. They want to see that our brave soldiers are fighting, and they are fighting, and they're operating, I think, very efficiently. So that's the Israeli perspective. From the Hamas perspective, they don't want the wider Palestinian communities and the wider Arab world to see what's happened to Gaza, because once that comes through, once the fact that the biggest Palestinian city ever a city of 1 million people, the city that was ruled by Hamas is no more. And Hamas made this terrible strategic miscalculation of provoking Israel into a response that I personally think Israel had no choice to make. Obviously, those who will disagree and say that Israel should have reacted differently. But it doesn't matter. This was Israel's reaction. The fact that Hamas misread Israel so terribly that Yahya Sinwar, who's supposed to be this genius on Israeli affairs, as you said, this consumer of Israeli media and expert on everything to do with Israel, has made this mistake and brought down this destruction. I mean, Gaza City is we can almost say, and we certainly will be able to say in a few weeks, Gaza City is no more as a place where 1 million people can live. Hamas is no more as a governing or a military force in the northern Gaza Strip. There are many pockets still of Hamas fighters, but there is nothing left of its certainly of its governing structure and its military hierarchy. Some of the commanders and the chiefs are still alive, but its military hierarchy has been broken. They're now disconnected. They're incapable of launching anything. Certainly nothing on the scale of October 7th, but anything more than just ambushes here and there. That's what they're capable of doing now. This is the destruction that Hamas has brought down on Gaza. And at this point, Hamas doesn't want the Arab world to see its terrible failure. The only thing they want the world to see is these clashes around Shifa, because that fits in the narrative that they're trying that they're working on. So what you're seeing, whether from Israeli or from Gazan sources, is not the big picture.
Okay. So I want to ask you, the IDF has reported that more than 1,000 Hamas terrorists have been eliminated so far, which is a lot. However, the estimate is that there are something like 40,000 Hamas fighters. So it seems that Hamas is largely focused on digging and waiting. Like, how do you reconcile the 1,000 eliminated with 40,000 left to go? And also related to that is, how is the IDF dealing with the tunnel system going forward, assuming a lot of these remaining 40,000 are somewhere in those tunnels, or have a lot of them scattered?
Okay, so there's a lot we don't know. Armies are very bad at even the most advanced armies are not very good at doing body counts during the fighting. But whether it's 1,000, whether it's 4,000, whether it's 8,000, yeah, you're right. The estimate that Hamas has between 30 and 40,000 fighters. Where are they? Israel's taken out 10, 20%, so you've still got 80% left. So they were in the south to begin with. We're talking about the Hamas's fighting force throughout the Gaza Strip, and the cities in the south, Khan Yunis and Rafah, they're not as big as Gaza City, but they're not small places either. So they have their battalions and brigades who were there to begin with. Those who were probably over half were originally in and around Gaza City. Some of them could still be in the tunnels. Some of them dead because some of the tunnels have been blown up, whether from in the ground operations or by bunker busting bombs in the more intensive airstrikes, which were before the ground operations began. Some could be still alive there with stores of food and water and fuel, operating generators, and hoping that Israel will withdraw at some point before their supplies run out, and then they can emerge. Then some will have discarded their weapons and uniforms and joined the hundreds of thousands fleeing to the south, and Israel has made an effort to try and locate amongst that river of tens of thousands flowing to the south, trying to locate who amongst them are Hamasniks. But the numbers and the circumstances of how it's happening mean that they can't inspect and interrogate every person going through. But from the soldiers I was with just in Shati a day and a half ago, they told me that a lot of the apartments that were located as being Hamas strongholds, or simply apartments belonging to Hamas members, which are being used also for military purposes, they found in many of them Kalashnikovs thrown just lying on the bed or on the sofa, military kit, webbing, IEDs which had not yet been put together. I mean, one of them said that, I saw the whole kit in one of them. One of the guys who's a combat engineer said to me, it was fascinating for him to see an IED before it was all put together with all the. I don't think I know all the technical terms, but the explosives and the various things used to set it off. So there was, at least from in Shati, and I think, and I've heard of it happening in other parts of Gaza, there was certainly a large number of Hamas fighters who simply fled and put on civilian clothes and left their weapons and their equipment behind. So there are many places where they could have dispersed to. Some of them probably also went towards the city center, to places like Shifa Hospital, where there still are both a significant number of civilians, not significant in the proportion of Gaza's original population. We're talking here about tens of thousands of people out of over 1 million. But that's the one place where there still are civilians. That's Hamas's always been their modus operandi, by hiding themselves among civilians. There are now much fewer civilians in Gaza where they can do that.
I want to talk about the situation with the hostages, which I know is a fluid, fast-moving situation. It's sometimes like hurry up and stop, one step forward, two steps back. The IDF announced that there were no hostages found in Shifa Hospital. Given that the IDF announced its intentions to go into Shifa well in advance, did you get the sense, or have you gotten the sense through your reporting and through your contacts and through your spending time with these soldiers on the ground, did you get a sense of disappointment on the side of the soldiers? Is it safe to assume that the hostages may have been there, but were just moved south in Gaza because they had all this warning?
So just to clarify, the IDF have only actually been into a very small part of the Shifa compound. It's a few buildings, there's a compound, they've been in one of the buildings, there's been some work done in the grounds, including, I think, some kind of digging work. From what I know and from what I've heard from Israeli intelligence officials, already a few days ago, before anybody went into Shifa, their assumption was that there were, at some point, some of the hostages were being held or treated both in Shifa, and they were no longer there. And Hamas are holding on to two, not just Hamas, Islamic Jihad, crime groups are holding on to 239 hostages that we know of. In some cases, they're holding on to bodies of hostages. We don't know which of them were alive. And they'll do everything to keep them. They're their bargaining chips. And the moment Hamas has some indication that Israel's heading for, the IDF is heading for Shifa, then they won't keep hostages there. They'll do everything they can to move them to another location. And it would seem that that's already happened. It's still important for the IDF to go into Shifa and see what they can find there, which will give them an indication of hostages having been there. There's DNA traces. So anywhere where people have been given medical treatment, then there's a chance that you can find something which will tell you who was there. Obviously, anything that they find is immediately sent back to Israel for inspection and for DNA sequencing. The forces inside are constantly aware of the need to try and locate the hostages. Now, not every Israeli soldier or every Israeli battalion will be operating in an area where Israel thinks hostages were held, but certainly when it comes to bodies, and they're finding bodies of Hamas fighters, they're finding bodies of civilians there. When they see a body which may, for various reasons, doesn't look like it's a body of another Hamas fighter or just an ordinary Gazan, they'll try and look for traces which will indicate that this may be the body of a hostage. In some cases, bodies will be taken into Israel for an attempt at identifying them. I think that's. I don't want to go into any further detail because this is very sensitive. We're talking here about families who have been waiting now for almost 6 weeks for any kind of news about their loved one. So beyond that, I probably shouldn't say anything, but it's certainly at the front of the mind of every Israeli soldier and commander inside Gaza. at the highest level of the war cabinet, there is a very big dilemma about how to best prosecute a war which Israel won't have the opportunity to use this level of forces and firepower in Gaza for much longer, while trying to save hostages, whether it's saving them by launching some kind of a rescue mission. And there's been so far one such mission in which a young woman soldier was saved, and also continuing to negotiate with Hamas, as bizarre as it is, and trying to reach some kind of agreement to release some of the hostages, and that's ongoing now. We know that David Barnea, the chief of Mossad, was a few days ago in Doha, in the Qatari capital, because the Qataris are Hamas's benefactors and patrons, trying to negotiate through them a deal. And also the CIA director Burns was there at the same time. So there's a lot of work going on, most of it secret, and some of it, which I do know I probably shouldn't talk about, to try and reach some kind of an agreement. You're trying to reach an agreement with an enemy that you're fighting at the same time. It's certainly not a simple thing to do. And once again, this is a terrible dilemma that the Israeli leadership has right now of how to prioritize, or of what to prioritize, and how to try and both not hinder the war operation and use it perhaps as a lever to pressure Hamas to release as many of the hostages as possible.
Final question for you, Anshel. For the military to achieve its objectives, I've been told various things, from it needs a few more weeks to it needs a few more months. But the United States government has basically said in so many words, Israel has a few weeks at most, even though they haven't said that officially. How do you see these two time fuses playing out? What's your sense when you're spending time with the IDF in terms of how much time they think they really need for this phase?
So it's simply a matter of going from street to street, block to block, neighborhood to neighborhood, and destroying the Hamas infrastructure that there is there. The more time that they have, the more time that they have to do that, once that time is over, it'll mean that X percent of Hamas's networks, tunnels, military infrastructure, whatever, has been destroyed in the northern section of Gaza. Will that be 30, 40, 50, 70, or 80% by then? It's just a matter of time. I can't assess, and even if I could, I wouldn't be able to say it exactly what that percentage is. But it's simply a matter of every extra day that the IDF has in there, they're degrading and destroying another chunk of Hamas's capabilities, tunnels, weapons, and also fighters who they still are seeing and killing when they see them. One thing we have to remember, that we're still talking about just one half of the Gaza Strip. It's the bigger half. It's the center. It's the capital. It's where Hamas had its main headquarters. But the question will be, once this window of opportunity, or window of legitimacy, that as some Israeli officials have called it, that they're getting from the Biden administration and from other Western allies as well, once that window closes, then the question will be, okay, what about the South? And it's quite clear now that Israel won't be able to operate in this way in the south of the Gaza Strip. There'll have to be some different type of more mobile, less boots on the ground operations. But both the fact that there are now twice the number of people there are over 2 million people in this small area of the south, and there'll be less support from the Biden administration for another type of heavy firepower ground operation, will mean that the next stage of this war in the south of Gaza will be very different. I can't predict at this point what it'll look like, and there'll also have to be, at the same time, Israel will have to also cooperate with some kind of aid relief operations there. The winter has just begun in this part of the world. You've got 2 million people there who need shelter, need food and water, and what's coming in through Egypt is very far from sufficient, and it can't really be sufficient because that part of Egypt's a dysfunctional country. Northern Sinai, which is the part of Egypt with borders with the Gaza Strip, is one of the most chaotic areas of Egypt. mounting a serious relief operation through northern Sinai is almost impossible. And Israel, which has so far since October 7th said, we are not going to allow supplies to go into Gaza from our territory, is going to have to make some concessions on that front as well.
Anshel, we will leave it there. Thank you for this. This is extremely helpful. It's a perspective we haven't had on this podcast. So hopefully you were kind enough to call me back, and hopefully we can rope you into another conversation soon. But we will be very efficient with your time.
Hopefully we'll be able to talk about the war having ended and some clear idea of what's next time.
Let's do that next time, from your lips to Hashem's ears.
Maybe Mashiach will come. Who knows?
Okay. Anshel, stay safe.
Thank you, Dan.
יושבים שעות מחכים שמשיח יבוא, משיח איש מפתח, ידו בכל ויד כל בו, ענן סמיך בירוחם ממצמץ בשפתיו, יהודה מסתכל בשעון ומפלבל בעיניו, משרד בצפון ארציאלי בעם יועץ, אחר הצהריים ובחוץ העולם מתרוצץ, נוחד זמזם אומר תביא לנו קפה, משיח לא בא, משיח גם לא מטלפן, שתיקה כללית, 5 אנשים מתוחים, הדלת נפתחת וירדנה כולה חיוכים, השחור ליהודה, התה לארציאלי הבן, ירדנה יוצאת, עזרא לא מפסיק לעשן, הנה כי כן מתחלפת שעה בשעה, זקן ארציאלי יודע שהוא לא טעה, נוטף זרעה ומראים בקולו על הבן, משיח לא בא, משיח גם לא מטלפן, פעמון הכניסה מנסה את דבשת המזגן, מקפיץ את ירוחם לדלת, חותך בעשן, ארציאלי הבן מסתכל על אביו מהצד, ובפתח מתגלה שוטר עם הכובע ביד, ויהודה אומר משהו בטח קרה, אומר לו ירוחם סתם לא שולחים משטרה, אומר השוטר הייתה תאונה ולכן המשיח לא בא, משיח גם לא מטלפן, תאונה למי שואל, ארציאלי הבן, תאונה למדינה עונה השוטר המסכן, הבורסה נפלה, אנשים קופצים מהגג, גם משיח קפץ והודיעו שהוא נהרג, הכל אבוד, בוכה עזרא דהן הקבלן, משיח בשמיים ואנחנו בלי הכסף כאן, וירדנה היפה ממלמלת, זה לא ייתכן, משיח לא יבוא, משיח גם לא יטלפן, דצמבר המר זעקו כותרות בעיתון, ושר האוצר נתן במבט ראיון, הציבור מטומטם ולכן הציבור משלם, מה שבא בקלות באותה הקלות ייעלם, האזרח הקטן נאלץ לשלם בגדול, ואותי מעניינת ירדנה, יותר מהכל הולך למילואים, כן, וסופר את הכסף שאין, ומשיח לא בא,